Hi, I'm Lisa Leiter in Chicago Business Today, bringing work home. After decades of shifting work from the United States overseas, some local factories are opting to return production to the Chicago area. To them, outsourcing has gone too far, with mistakes that can cost too much time and money to fix when a supplier is thousands of miles away. The trend is called nearshoring, and while it may not be enough to reverse years of losing work to overseas firms, it's helping manufacturers recover from a deep recession. Danny Ecker has the story.
There's parts like that on both sides of this board.
These days, Dana Mori is keeping things local.
So these are tens of thousands.
The co-owner of Woodridge-based electronics manufacturer Mori Corporation, he was fed up with the rising cost and hassle of outsourcing production halfway around the world, so he took action, switching from a circuit board supplier in China to Northbrook-based Acme Alliance, and he hasn't looked back.
It's a deep well. Nobody's perfect. People make mistakes, and you're going to have those problems. But when your supply chain is 13,000 miles long, a little mistake can be really expensive.
It's part of a trend in nearshoring for manufacturing companies, bringing outsourced production closer to home. A January study by Chicago-based accounting firm Grant Thompson found that 20% of the 312 companies it surveyed had shifted from Asian suppliers to partners closer to home in 2009, and that 12% plan to do so this year. Mori estimates his company spent more than $200,000 last year on premium airfare to expedite replacement parts after those that were shipped were defective, a cost which doesn't include the several weeks it took to ship the bad parts in the first place.
The message is getting out that unless you can save 35 cents on the dollar, you probably are better off finding a local manufacturer. The challenge in quantifying it is that when it doesn't happen, you don't know how often it would have happened had you not done it. And so we had enough experience to say this is far more expensive than we recognize.
But while nearshoring has its advantages for local manufacturers, there are different kinds of obstacles that complicate making the move. Dan Swinney of the Chicago Manufacturing Renaissance Council says the labor force needed to handle bringing production back on a mass scale may not yet be sufficient. Despite the number of available workers locally, many lack the skills needed for the jobs.
From a business standpoint as well as a social standpoint, we need to start dramatically expand the number of companies that are now successfully competing against their European and Asian counterparts to gain a real position in this market. We've allowed our commitment to manufacturing and production sort of drift, in large part decline. So I think right now, I think there's a growing number of people who recognize if we don't reverse this, if we don't return to being a productive, innovative society that puts people on the moon, that is at the cutting edge of new technologies, we're going to suffer as a society.
And for manufacturers like Mori, who hopes to continue using local suppliers, growing the number of skilled workers and companies just down the road can't come soon enough. For Chicago Business Today, I'm Danny Ecker.
Thanks, Danny, for that report. It's harder to pinpoint how big a role reshoring is playing in the manufacturing recovery. Illinois factories lost 115,000 jobs during the recession, but have only added about 10,000 this year. A recent survey by Thomasnet Industry Market Barometer showed that 35% of industrial sector companies are adding jobs, 58% are holding steady, while 7% are downsizing. And that's this edition of Chicago Business Today. For more on this story, be sure to check out this week's Focus section in the print edition of Crain's or at chicagobusiness.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.